Welcome to the Wired for Success podcast, your show for ambitious, mission-driven entrepreneurs who want to build million-dollar businesses without sacrificing their health, relationships, or happiness, who understand that in order to build their empire, they need a solid foundation, and that the more they are thriving, the more their business is thriving too. This show brings you the very best from science, self-development, and entrepreneurship to set you up for sustainable success. Hi, I'm Claudia Garbutt, the scientist turned mindset and high-performance coach for entrepreneurs, and I help you get wired for success. Hey everyone, and welcome back to a brand new episode of the Wired for Success podcast, where we talk about all things science, self-development, and entrepreneurship that help you get to that next level of success in your life and business. And today I'm bringing you a new interview episode. My guest today is serial entrepreneur, founder, and keynote speaker, Jeff Davis. By his 30s, Jeff had already built multiple national companies. He has been featured in Fortune magazine, CNN.Money, and he has been quoted by Inc. magazine and featured in countless other news stories. He paid a steep price working 80 plus stressful hours per week, though, until he eventually reached his pain threshold. And it was a life-changing moment that pushed him to figure out a way to escape that day-to-day weeds of his business and build something better. And Jeff eventually went from working every night and every weekend to traveling for 2 years with his family, seeing 29 countries, all while growing his business. And that sounds super interesting to me, and I'm really looking forward to learning how he has been able to pull this off. So welcome, Jeff, and thank you so much for being on my show today.
Thank you so much for having me. Excited to have the conversation.
Yeah, me too. So Jeff, it sounds like you used to live the life of a typical workaholic who spends most of his time just focused on his business and career. Can you tell us a little bit about your background and how you ended up working such crazy hours?
Yeah, so my background is a little bit unique as an entrepreneur. I actually have a Master of Fine Arts degree and had a art training, but I was always very entrepreneurial. So it was, how can I turn this art into a business? How can I turn drawing stuff into a business? And I ended up starting a business doing medical legal trial presentations for attorneys in the US. Started with, one lawyer in one city, and then started growing to other cities, other states across America with this kind of unique, quirky service. And I was in my early 30s, like really early, I think 30 or 31 when I started the business. And I think for a lot of people, when you're in your early 30s, you're sort of in that warrior mode mentality, trying to prove yourself to your friends and to your parents. When I started the business, I wasn't married yet. So I had really not a lot else going on. And I just went all in. And like everything, I'm going to go until I'm falling asleep at my computer.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, while working a lot is okay for a certain period of time. When you don't take the time to relax and recharge, things will turn very ugly eventually, right?
So yeah, for sure. Yeah. And I was kind of curious how long I could go before it would have an effect on me. And I used to my office was in downtown with all these big, tall buildings, and it would be literally 3 a.m, 4 a.m, pitch blackout, and I have a suit and tie on downtown, walking to my office and looking around at all these buildings and thinking, seeing all the lights turned off and thinking, all out work, everybody, like pounding my chest like a moron.
Oh, wow. Can you describe that life-changing key moment when you realized that you simply couldn't go on like that any longer?
Yeah, I mean, I literally had physical things starting to happen where one time it was so much pressure, so much stress, so little sleep, where, I mean, I literally had some nights where I was at the office as the sun was coming up, and I look out the window and say, oh crap, the sun's coming up. I need to go home and shower and change my suit. I mean, it was crazy. And for me, the big moment was when my wife and I had our first baby, and we're at the hospital. She has a baby. We're crying. It's this life-changing moment, obviously. I slept on the chair next to her bed. And the next morning, because I was still so entrenched in the details of the business and how it ran, I'd said, I've got to go to the office. I'll be back in a minute. I just got to go real quick. I thought. And so she said, yeah, go ahead, please. So I left the hospital. I go there, and then I had employees over there. So then this one's got a question. This one's got a question. Then I made the mistake of opening my email while I was there, and it just turned into hours. And I remember driving back to the hospital and being there way longer than I should have. And at the time, there was a lot of success happening in my business and my life, or like some of the things you mentioned, being featured in some of these national business magazines. I felt like the biggest loser on the planet. I seriously felt like you are the biggest loser as I was, parking my car and go back in there. You're that person in the movie that's like this idiot that's missing the whole point. I was like, I'm that guy thinking I'm winning. And so I could tell God bless my wife, she put up with it and was willing to, she believed in my vision 100% and knew that we had to make sacrifices to make this thing happen from scratch, totally self-funded, all sweat equity, literally just me starting the business by myself. And so she believed in it, but then we were a few years into it, and I could tell she was sort of like, when does this get awesome again? Yeah. And we had the baby, and I'm leaving, going back to work and coming back, and I remember just being burned out because every night, every weekend, that's all I was doing was working. And I finally broke down. I started crying. We're in our bedroom, and I'm hugging her and promising her that I'm going to figure it out. I'm gonna figure out a way to have a business where I can provide for our family, but also be a great dad and be a great husband too. I want all of those things, not just one.
No pressure.
I was like, it's possible. I know it's possible. Yeah. If it's not impossible, that can only mean one thing. It's possible.
Yeah, and I'm so sorry to hear that this happened to you, but I know that this is not just a single case. I mean, this happens to so many people. And the tricky thing about burnout is that it doesn't happen overnight. It's over time that the stress accumulates and builds up, and often without you even realizing it, until it reaches that threshold, that point where you completely collapse. Yeah. And I mean, it has happened to me too, so I know exactly what that's like. But when I look back, I realized that one of the warning signs, for instance, that I ignored for far too long was that I simply couldn't relax anymore. Even if I took a weekend off and I didn't work, I never felt recharged. I constantly felt wired and tired, too wired to sleep, too tired to focus. So in hindsight, I know that this was one of the indicators that my physiological stress response was just through the roof. But when you think back, can you identify some of those psychological or physiological warning signs? How did the accumulating stress show up for you?
Yeah, it's completely true what you said, how it just stacks and stacks and stacks. And just by being an entrepreneur, we're obviously a little bit crazy, What's Michael Gerber, the author of the E-Myth, says people have this moment where they decide to go into business for themselves, and he calls it an entrepreneurial seizure. And they have this entrepreneurial seizure, and then they soon realize they're working for a total lunatic.
Yeah, that's so true.
And it's true. So, but you stack these things up and you don't realize it because we're already a little bit crazy. We're already super driven. We're like, we have crazy perseverance, and so it's funny because I have friends who have had the same thing. They're tough, they have perseverance, they go and go. And the ones that have had that moment, they all of us were always kind of confused. Like, I don't understand what's going on with my chest. Why am I feeling this pain in my chest? I don't get it. It's not that much going on. Well, I guess, whatever it is, I've heard like, well, I guess I am having a split with my business partner right now. And we do owe, $500,000 on this whatever thing. And I did just have, an employee try to steal all our, files or whatever. And I did, haven't had a vacation for 5 years. And then you start piecing it together and it's like, hello. Yeah. And so.
But it's so weird. It sneaks up on you, right?
For me, I mean, I would catch myself where I realized I hadn't taken like a deep breath in a while. That's supposed to be on autopilot. You're not supposed to have to think about breathing. But I would realize I was like, like, wow, I haven't taken I haven't been breathing right. And, or I would, I would, be so busy. I didn't want to take the time to go to the bathroom. I would,
I
like seriously, just
know.
like, I can wait a little longer. I'll wait a little longer. I'll keep going. I'll keep going. So we're like, that's not good for your body. But I was literally, I don't know, FedEx office in America used to be called Kinko's. And I used to go to this 24-hour FedEx office, but it was called Kinko's back then. I literally go there 2, 3 in the morning to have them print things for me. I drive 20 minutes across town because I was the only one that was open that late, like all night long. And I remember doing that, and I'd sleep for like 2 more hours, and I get up and I do another thing. And I was driving back one time on a Sunday, I think, from that 24-hour print place. And all of a sudden, like literally my vision started doing these weird things where as I was driving, I couldn't tell if the car in front of me was like far or close, and my like peripheral vision was like closing in. I still don't know what that was happening to me, but I called my wife, just like, here's what's happening in case for some reason I don't, make it there. And she was saying, pull over. I was like, I'm almost there. The same stupid perseverance. But so that was sort of for me that, and then all the missing, the baby being born incident, all kind of compounding.
Yeah, I mean, you already hinted at that, but your workaholic lifestyle did not only affect your own mental, emotional, and physical health, but also your relationships and the people around you. Can you maybe talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. So I don't know. Because of my business, I observed a lot of, we were litigation support. We were helping trial lawyers. We're working on these big stakes cases. And so I'd see these people that are making a lot of money, but out of shape, on their third, fourth marriage, seemed miserable, looked 15 years older than they were, all these things like piles of boxes, at midnight full of documents. It just looked terrible. And I remember thinking, like, that doesn't seem like winning. Like, I don't want to be high-fiving my sixth wife on the revenue for that month. That doesn't feel like winning. And so for me, I started just thinking about, I want to be healthy. I want to be in good shape. I want to feel good. I want to look good for my wife. I literally put a Post-it up on the wall in my closet that reminded me, be a good son, be a good brother, be a good husband, be a good father, be a good friend, so every day I would see it and it would remind me, like, oh, when's the last time I called my parents? When's the last time I talked to my brother? When's the last time, all those kinds of things too, not just lead generation.
Yeah, I mean, that's so important to really define what success looks like to
Yeah.
to ourselves. I mean, that we don't just soldier on and try to make the most amount of money, but really question what it is that we want to achieve. And as you said, is if you're not healthy, if you're not enjoying your life, but you're making a lot of money, are you really successful? I mean,
Yeah, I mean, everybody's answer is different. There are as many ways to be an entrepreneur as there are entrepreneurs. What's right for me might be the totally wrong way for somebody else. So I can only speak to what makes me happy and the kind of entrepreneurship I want to live and experience for me.
absolutely. Now, from a business perspective, can you walk us through the main steps you took to go from being at your office at 3 a.m., working every night and every weekend, to traveling the world with your wife and your kids for 2 years? What practices and systems did you put in place that allowed you to do that?
Yeah, and that's an important thing. The first thing I want people to understand is it wasn't like I spent a couple hours, figuring it out, and then a week later I was like traveling the world. This is like a very gradual process. It took me, I mean, now I have hindsight and I could share some of those things, with people a easier, faster, less painful way than the way I did it, was just all trying to figure stuff out, really having all these experiments, and then things might collapse in, oh God, now that's actually worse. We're losing tons of money. That didn't work, and then I tried this thing. But the first thing that I did, and I would suggest people do, is I physically went somewhere disconnected from all the business, the day-to-day, the office, from where I might run into people. I mean, I literally drove 55 minutes outside of the town I was living in, with a pad of paper and a pen and a hat pulled down, just in case somebody might know me, because I just wanted to be alone. And I just was resolved to sit there and try to figure it out, like I promised my wife. And I started figuring out, what are all the things that I'm the one doing that somebody else could do? What are processes and systems for some of those things? Who else could do it? And I literally started keeping an inventory of everything I did all day, every day. Like I kept a log of it for weeks, so I could have, somebody popped into my office and asked me a question, I'd write that down. What was the question? Where's the answer? Is the answer only in my head and that's why they had to come to see me? Or is there a place where people can go and get the answers to their questions? And if we didn't have that, we would create it. And just, my thing was, anytime somebody asked me a question, nobody's ever going to ask me that question ever again. Or they can, but I'm never going to have to answer it ever again. I literally would hand a video camera to somebody and I'd answer it, and then we'd put that answer somewhere where they can go find it. And so I was always thinking, how can I only have to do this one time, and then there's a place. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. That's exactly kind of what I've created a course for entrepreneurs that helps them win back 1 to 2 hours of precious time each day. So it's kind of like a time management, but also how do you work efficiently type thing. So that's exactly one of the things that we discuss in there as well.
Yeah, so many people they could spend 2 hours just in their inbox alone in a day. And I mean, I was like a little crackhead getting my little inbox check fix. I mean, I think really a lot of times it was just like, so I could feel productive and doing something important, probably putting off the bigger picture stuff I should have been working on.
Yeah, that's a little dopamine hit. Sometimes we just crave this little dopamine hit of feeling that, yes, I checked a box, I did something productive.
Yeah. And so I don't remember if I went from checking like every 15 minutes in an 8-hour day, that's a lot of email checks. And and I started to realize I'm just like responding to everybody else's agenda for my time. And I wasn't really leading the business. And so, so I went from checking every 15 minutes to like a couple times a day. These days, for a while now, I'll only check my email once a day, unless I'm super bored or there's a particular thing that I'm like anxious to see a reply for, on occasion. But for the most part, I just check it one time a day. I have an executive assistant that goes through the emails and can get rid of stuff that I don't need to see. In some cases, respond on my behalf if appropriate, and just leave, essential. So instead of 200 emails a day, it might be like 15.
Much better.
Yeah.
Now, having all those practices and systems in place is great, but it's often still really difficult to break one's personal workaholic habits, right? Like the email check that just makes you feel better. What were because those habits are like deeply rooted, and there is such thing as work addiction. So it's really about how do we replace that, and how do we find ways to create more supportive habits. So how did you do that?
Yeah, and for me, I don't think it was work addiction as much as it was the fear. It was partly the fear of, if I don't do it, it's not going to be good enough, mixed with undercapitalized, and I couldn't afford, the team, that I didn't have any I didn't raise any capital. I just started it on a, the classic ideas on a napkin to the next thing, to the next thing. So for me, I think it was mostly that, just it didn't have a lot of resources. So I had to just, do all this stuff during the day. And then I did all that stuff at night, which, you could do that to a certain point, but then you're the bottleneck to the growth. You can't grow beyond a certain point. And you get stuck, and people kind of can't realize why they're not growing beyond a certain point. And, and so I think that was it. It was like, just literally to save the money. Where nowadays, this is, I'm talking almost 20 years ago, but now, I mean, there's so many ways you could use virtual assistants and technology to make it so affordable to get helped in different ways.
Yeah, absolutely. And maybe on a related note, what daily practices have you found most helpful to recover from that workaholic lifestyle? Or in other words, what are your daily routines or practices that help you stay relaxed, healthy, and happy?
I would say, it's building a team, like a leadership team. So it's not just you, the main person with some helpers, but you actually have, I mentioned a virtual assistant, but, I have an executive assistant with an MBA who can take things and handle things. I have, an operations manager that can help, manage the day-to-day operations. I'd say things like that. Sometimes you don't have the ability or luxury to start right out of the gate with that. But even that, you could probably think, how might I be able to bring in some of those people, if maybe just part-time, maybe they're in the Philippines, maybe, so it's more within reach. I think for me, as far as the daily habit, is having a clear idea of the bigger picture things that I'm looking to accomplish, my skill set. I mean, I have very few things that I'm pretty good at, and then a ton of things that I suck at. So I've gotten pretty good at knowing what I suck at and trying to stay out of the way, not trying to act like I'm good at this and I got this. I used to kind of fake it till I make it, with all these different things that I really was in the wrong lane. It's not my thing. I've realized I'm good at the ideas. I'm good at, coming up with the strategy, and then more the visionary aspect of it. And so I try to stay in that lane. In some cases, people like us entrepreneurs that kind of think of the ideas and get excited about, oh, we've got a new product or a new service, and here's how we can market it, and here's how we can sell it. And it's like shiny object syndrome, all these things. So sometimes literally have to like keep them in my back pocket. I want to share the Google doc or sheet that I just made with everybody, but I'm like, don't hit share yet. Just keep, that's another new idea. Just stop. I mean, I literally have a list of, I think, 25 initiatives that I want to do, but I'm being realistic. We're only working on a couple, per quarter.
Yeah, focus is so important.
But seeing like what's the bigger picture? Where is it more important for me to stay, focused on, that'll have the biggest impact? Little hinges swing big doors, and so I want to, try to find the right people, the right companies, the right vendors, the right technology that can take like as many of the other things off my plate.
Yeah. And what about exercise and sleep routines, nutrition? So do you have some routines there, or how did you?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. It's funny because I'm in Thailand right now as we're doing this, which is 12 hours later than Eastern time in the US. And so the habits that I used to have in America are like, it's all totally different, totally different working schedule, totally different everything. I was one of those guys that I would get up before the sun came up and go for a run in the US. Now here in Thailand, one thing that's been nice is by the time I wake up, everybody's done with work. So I haven't had an alarm wake me up in the morning in about 2 years. So I just wake up when I wake up. And then I do exercises every morning. I think I take Sundays off usually.
That's
But
fine.
yeah, I'll take Sundays off, but I'm always doing like stretches and some kind of workout thing. I eat healthy. Just don't even crave that much stuff. Like my kids have, I think one of them's never had a Coke before, and the other one's like tried a couple sips of a Coke.
Yeah, and if they don't grow up with that, they don't even like it that much. At least that's what I find with my kids.
Yeah. My 12-year-old son, he's proud that he's never been to McDonald's before, and he wants to try to go his whole life without ever eating McDonald's. And he loves burgers.
It's awesome. Now I'm curious, what has been most challenging and what has been most rewarding about your new nomadic lifestyle? So what life lessons have you learned from traveling to so many countries with your kids and your wife?
I actually have a list of lessons that I've learned in each of these different countries. That I'd be lucky every now and then there'd be this kind of amazing moment that I'd be typing as fast as I could to try to capture what I just experienced, I would say there's a quote by Bono from U2: "The world is more malleable than you think, and it's waiting for you to bend it into shape." And forgive me if I'm off by a word or two, but more or less that's the quote. And so that's something that I've come to believe more and more and more, is that, you will think that there's no way I could do this and this, but you really can design the life that you want to have exactly how you want it to be. Obviously there's still going to be curveballs thrown at you. There's still going to be, punches in the teeth. You're still going to get super bummed out on things. If you're growing a business, there's no way you're not going to have those things come at you still. It's just always, my most successful friends have just endured the most pain.
Yeah.
And so, but it's that belief that you can work from this amazing place with this unbelievable view and still be getting things done, and you can make a good living and spend a crazy amount of time with your spouse and kids and be in shape and have adventure and do fun stuff.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
No, go ahead. I totally agree.
And this is coming from a person that I literally couldn't understand how people would be able to go home from work at dinner time and then not have to do anything else the rest of the night. Like, that didn't even seem possible to me. I'm not talking about 2-week vacation, 1-week vacation. Like, I'm just like, I have dinner, and then I couldn't imagine just do whatever you want for the rest of the night. It just seems so out of reach. I mean, for me to think Friday 5 o'clock and then you're done until Monday morning, that was like a dream. That would be like the greatest thing I could have ever wished for. So to take I've taken entire months off where, I mean, like this just recently, I hadn't even opened my email inbox for, I think, 3 weeks. Not even one time for 3 weeks. So,
yeah, I think the most important thing there is that so many people are just on autopilot, and that's why they feel that they're stuck in this hamster wheel, but they don't realize that they could step out of that hamster wheel, that they could get off autopilot and really become those conscious creators of their dream lives. And
yeah, I think Malcolm Gladwell said something to the effect that to a worm in horseradish, the whole world is horseradish. That's like what the world is. And so it's like, all you know is what you know.
so true.
And so you just get used to it. Plus, entrepreneurs, we are all super optimistic. We would never be crazy enough to go on the journey that we go on if we weren't super optimistic. And so sometimes it can be, the optimism can be to our own detriment, because we're, every time I talk to entrepreneurs that are struggling with this kind of stuff, they all seem to think that 6 months from now, everything's going to be better.
Yeah.
Even though they're more or less doing the same things the same way, not a whole lot's changed. And so that's why we have a big annual event we do every December. It's always in Florida in the US. We have a ballroom. We bring in all these entrepreneurs fly in from all over the place. And the event's called Plan the Attack. And I always tell them that we disconnect for the entire day from the beginning of the morning till dinner time. And the event is called Plan the Attack. It's not called Plan a Pretty Good Year. It's not called Plan a Year kind of like last year. It's called Plan the Attack. We make it as an attack on your business and on your life as an entrepreneur.
Nice. Now that you have managed to turn your life around completely, what's next for you? What's the next adventure that you'd like to take on, and what does your vision for your business look like?
Yeah, thank you. We actually recently, it's funny because you do a plan, you have a vision of what you want, and then you get there, but sometimes we forget to be like, what's the next thing? So I just recently mapped out the next 3 years, like month by month, what the next 3 years look like. And I've been starting to put together a team to accomplish what we want to do over the next 3 years, which really for me is growing our community of entrepreneurs and CEOs, 12 Mavens, into other countries, different kinds of groups, different like super affordable versions of being a part of the community, to all the way to very high end. We have founders of companies doing $60-70 million a year in our community, but we want to have that person that's maybe 5 months into their journey, there's something for them that they can help. And for me, the reason I even do this is just because I know the pain that entrepreneurs go through. And if I can help somebody be a better wife, better husband, they're less stressed, better parent, because the work part isn't wearing them down. And then, that has a ripple effect onto their teams. Their team members go home to their families. I just think that's the impact that I want to have.
I love it. That's so great. Can you tell us a little bit more about your business? So who is your ideal client? You already hinted at that, but can you go a little bit more into more details about who is it for and what do you help them with?
Yeah. And really, it started off, it was for myself, like what I wanted to have, and I did put together just kind of for my own benefit. I mentioned I was in my early 30s, guns blazing, thought I could do no wrong, and then the worst thing be putting things like Fortune magazine when I'm in my early 30s, made me think we're going to be this and then this. And then I made a couple of, guns blazing decisions that exploded, and, it was a risk. And I just watched a lot of money, disappear in 6 months. And this is all like leading into the Great Recession. I made these big bets right as the total economic collapse was about to happen, kind of thing. And a lot of pain, waking up at 3 a.m., like, realizing that only a few more days till payroll, kind of things. Growing a business is expensive, and you had all this kind of stuff going on. But so when I was fortunate enough to be able to make it through the Great Recession and grow it, and then have an exit and sold that company. And I remember thinking, I've given advice to young, aspiring entrepreneurs to, what's something you would do for free? What's something that you love to do? For me, it was, I just loved brainstorming with other people. And so I thought about the pain I went through from making that decision without getting any other opinions, no outside perspectives, no suggestions. Stupid, just bad to not get that. Other people have hindsight, they have past experiences, ideas, connections, resources, and I realized I needed that. So I put together a group of entrepreneurs that were successful, smart. I wanted to be the dumbest person in the group. I think they would all agree that I check. So I did that, but it was just too casual. And I remember thinking, I did that actually before I sold my company. And then when I sold the company, I was thinking, that same advice I gave people, what would you do? And so I was like, I would do that, put that group together, but have more structure, have a framework to kind of vet people, so we get good people that really get it or into it, want to leverage, the outside perspectives, and have this confidential think tank that they can meet with every month, and holding each other accountable and getting other people's ideas. None of us are as smart as a whole group of us combined together. And so that's what I did, put it together with just a single group where I lived. I just sold a company. I was really more interested in having long lunches with my wife, to be honest with you, than trying to grow another business. So I just had a group because I loved it. And then after about a year and a half, started a second group. Maybe a year later, started a third group. And then now we have other groups and members all over the country. And so they meet together in groups of, about a dozen, 12 mavens, we call it, about 12 business owners. Our members are primarily from a few million up to 100 million in annual revenue, some a little higher, some a little lower. But as I mentioned, we're adding some other different options for entrepreneurs of every kind to be able to get value out of it.
Sounds great. When you have these groups of ambitious people and driven people, just being able to harness the synergy that comes from having all these great minds come together and think about a problem or a challenge, it's amazing.
It's amazing. Because I've been doing this for years now, I've seen life-changing moments happen more times than I ever thought I would experience, where, you could see it, like, they're stressed out, their head's down, their shoulders are down. You could see, like, when they're talking about it, the concern, and now they've got this idea, and I would do this. And like, we went through the same thing 6 months ago, and here's what happened. And and then they're like, oh, and when you do that, make sure you have the other person. And you could see, they know exactly what to do. They have this confidence, or they have this total shift in how they always thought something had to be, to this, they were trying to figure out if it was A or B, but the answer was 7 or whatever, like, it was just like a total, like, oh, like, just a total different thing that wasn't really this or this. It was, this thing. And
yes, entirely. Yeah,
I've seen amazing, like, life-changing conversations. Sometimes it doesn't happen right away, where it's like that little shift, or this person, it connected them to this person, and then, like, 6 months later, this happened, and then it's pretty cool. We've seen, like, amazing things happen.
Yeah, I love those light bulb moments where it's just like, oh, everything just shifted.
Yeah, I'm always jealous if I'm facilitating a meeting. I'm always jealous that I just want to put out a thing and just receive it, but I'm there to, like, that's not why I'm there. But yeah, it would be nice. Like, I plan the attack. I always wish I could just sit in the room with the workbook like everybody else. But yeah, it really is incredible.
So last but not least, where can our listeners find you if they want to connect or work with you?
Yeah, they could find me. I'm on LinkedIn, Jeff Davis on LinkedIn, 12mavens.com. I'm weird about social media. People can't believe how little that I do on social media. And I know it's important in this day and age, but I'm just one of those people. I took Instagram, Facebook, Snapchat, like all of it off my phone. So I'm not that easy, but I'll give your listeners my actual real everyday email is jeff@12mavens.com. JEFF at the number 1, the number 2, M as in Mary, AV as in Victor, ENS.com. Probably my executive assistant will get it before me, but say something so she'll feel compelled to patch it through.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you so much, Jeff, for sharing your story and for sharing all those tips and insights with all of us today. I really appreciate it. And it's been a joy talking with you.
Likewise, thank you for doing what you do. The world needs you. Keep doing what you're doing. It's awesome.
Oh, thank you so much. So keep up the good work. Take care and talk to you soon. Bye.
Same. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you so much for listening to the Wired for Success podcast. I hope you've enjoyed this episode. If you did, please take a sec to rate and review my show or share it with a friend. That way you can support the show and help me reach and support other entrepreneurs like yourself as well. If you would like my help to figure out how you can go from overwhelmed and overworked hustler to empowered and confident leader, check out my website at www.wiredforsuccess.solutions and book a free 20-minute strategy session with me. Can't wait to help you get wired for success. Until next time, take care. Bye.
This is not a commercial for The Way I Heard It with Mike Rowe, the award-winning podcast now entering its 10th year and available wherever podcasts are listened to. No, this is a commercial for Mike Rowe's foundation, which has just set aside $10 million to help train the next generation of skilled workers. That money is available right now at microworks.org. It's waiting for anyone who wants to learn a skill that doesn't require a 4-year degree. Electricians, plumbers, linemen, welders, shipbuilders, HVAC techs. America is desperate for men and women with skills they don't teach in universities. And the MicroWorks Foundation is committed to helping train America's workforce for hundreds of thousands of AI-proof 6-figure jobs just waiting to be filled. Apply today for a work ethic scholarship at microworks.org or support our efforts with a donation of any size. We're closing America's skills gap one job at a time, and we could use your help at microworks.org, MIKEROWE works.org.